What you need: the story of Flume. Harley Edward Streten, better known as Flume, was born on November 5, 1991 in Sydney, Australia. He grew up on the northern beaches of Sydney, raised by his filmmaker and record producer father, Glen Streten, as well as his horticulturalist mother, Lyndall Streten. According to his father, Harley was interested in music from a young age. When he was 8 years old, he was at the grocery store with his father and he saw that Nutri-Grain cereal was running a promotion where a copy of Andrew G's Music Maker was included in the cereal box. They purchased the cereal and installed the software on their computer when they got home. The software showed Harley how music was layered together, and he was very intrigued and wanted to learn more about music production. That was the catalyst that triggered Harley's development into the world-class, Grammy-winning producer we know him as today. The first album he ever bought with his own money was Aquarium by Aqua, which contains the infamous Barbie Girl track. Some other albums that influenced him at a young age include Block Party's Silent Alarm, the Daft Punk albums Homework and Discovery, as well as Justice's Cross album. Growing up, Flume played the piano and the saxophone, and he was actually in the same high school band as Dave LaPope, who is the lead singer of the Australian band Gang of Youths. They both attended Mossman High School on Sydney's North Shore, and they would jam together during lunchtime, with Dave singing and Harley accompanying him on the sax. Something funny I found about his childhood is that he was once punched in the face by a kangaroo. He said, "I was feeding a kangaroo that had something in its eye, so I tried to get it out by helping it, but it slapped me in the face to the floor. The most dangerous thing I ever did was being born in Australia." By 2010, Harley had been honing in his production skills for quite some time, so he began to put out some of his music on the internet under the name Heads, which was basically his initials. H for Harley, ED for Edward, and S for Streten. He put out 2 original house tracks, one named Flow, and the other named Fizz. He released several remixes under the project as well. Around this time, he linked up with Chris Emerson of Emo Instead, and together they formed What So Not. Flume was an active member of What So Not from 2010 through 2015, being a part of major releases such as Jaguar and Tell Me. In February of 2015, Flume announced his departure from What So Not, as he and Emo Instead had been moving in different directions creatively, and that the 2015 Gemini EP would be their last release as a duo. After his stint as Heads, he eventually headed in a different direction with his sound and began to create some of the early Flume tracks. His new moniker was inspired by the Bon Iver track named Flume. He saw some early success with his track Possum getting some radio play in Australia. In 2011, while he was working at a news agency, one of his friends told him about a contest that was being hosted by the Australian record company Future Classic. He decided to send in 3 demos that we now know as Sleepless, Over You, and Paper Thin, and he finished in 2nd place. Nathan McLay, the founder of Future Classic, took notice to Flume and helped him release his first EP, Sleepless, which contained the 3 tracks that he had submitted for the contest. Nathan became Flume's manager, and he's still his manager to this day. In 2011 and 2012, he put out a slew of remixes, including his remix of New Navy's Zimbabwe, Matt Miller and Kilter's Gravel Pit, Taku's Higher, the Aston Shuffle's Won't Get Lost, Junior Boy's Every Little Step, and of course his famous remix of Hermitude's Hyper Paradise. He also appeared on Anna Luna's Anna Luna and Friends EP, collaborating with her on the track I Met You. In the summer of 2012, Flume's booking agent Chad Gillard, who is now his co-manager, got him booked for Splendor in the Grass Festival, which was his first time playing a major festival. At the beginning of the set, the tent was about 1/3 full, and by the end of it, the whole tent was packed out. This was when his team realized that he was onto something and he had the potential for his music to take over the world. On November 9th, 2012, Flume released his 15-track self-titled debut album. The entire album was made on his first laptop he had ever purchased, and the record landed at number 2 on the ARIA album chart. The following month, he signed with Mom and Pop Music and announced the North American release of the album, which was released in February of the following year. The album featured vocals from Moon Holiday, Jezebel Duran, Chet Faker, and T-Shirt. At this point in his career, he wasn't playing a huge number of shows, though he did play a handful of Australian festivals and one-off US shows. 2013 was when things really started to heat up for Flume. He kicked off the year with a few shows in the UK, followed by a handful of performances at Australian festivals. In the spring of 2013, he made his US debut at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, and about a week later he kicked off his US tour, playing Miami, Chicago, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, New York, Washington, DC, and he capped it off with a show in Boston. This year he also embarked on his Infinity Prism tour through Australia. He continued on with with playing shows and festivals all around the world, capping off the year with a total of 82 shows. 2013 also brought about the release of his 3-track Lockjaw EP with Chet Faker, which contained the hit track Drop the Game. He also released his remix of Yolanda Be Cool's Abaru in New York, as well as his smash remix of Disclosure's You and Me, and his Jack and House remix of Marlena Shaw's Woman of the Ghetto. Flume kicked off 2014 with appearances at festivals such as Field Day, Holy Ship, and Lollapalooza Chile, Argentina, and Brazil. In April of that year, he played Coachella for the first time, where he debuted his famous remix of Lord's Tennis Court, which he also dropped on SoundCloud that year, but it didn't find its way to Spotify until the beginning of 2023. He continued his streak of remixes this year, releasing his rework of Chet Faker's Gold, CK's Test and Recognize, and Arcade Fire's Afterlife. He finished out the year playing some more major festivals like Snow Globe and Lollapalooza Chicago, playing a total of 62 shows for the year. 2015 was a quieter year for Flume compared to 2014, as he was dedicating much of his time towards crafting his upcoming sophomore album, but he still played a total of 39 shows, with a return to Holy Ship for the second year in a row, as well as appearances at other major festivals such as Lightning in a Bottle, EDC Las Vegas, and Electric Forest. This year, he also released his remix of Sam Smith's Lay Me Down and his remix of Collarbone's track, Turning. He also dropped a single with Andrew Wyatt of Mike Snow called Some Minds, which is one of my all-time favorite Flume tracks. That song interests me a lot because of how it was produced. Flume ran a single note through an arpeggiator and recorded it for about 45 minutes, and then he picked out the short sections that sounded best to him, which is how he created the unique drop that you hear at the end of the track. Flume often gets his unique sounds through experimentation like this. He once said that he feels like a scientist conducting experiments in Ableton, doing things that might not technically be correct in order to see what kind of sounds he can come up with. 3 days after the turn of the new year in 2016, Flume released his Skin LP preview, which was a 4.5-minute mix previewing short clips of music from his upcoming album. 12 days later, he released the first single off the album, Never Be Like You featuring Kai, which ended up being the most popular song from the album and got a lot of radio play. 2 weeks after that, he released the second single from the album, Smoke and Retribution with Vince Staples. On April 17th, 2016, Flume debuted the new stage setup for his upcoming Skin tour at Coachella. This was the first time the public got to hear all of the tracks from his upcoming album played out live. The visuals for this set were some of the best that we had ever seen from any electronic artist at this point. The visuals were fully integrated with the music, and Flume had full control over them on stage, as the live effects that he would perform with the music directly changed the appearance of the visuals. He worked closely with visual artist Jonathan Zawada to bring this visual experience to life. Zawada was also the artist who created the cover art for his Skin album, as well as the singles off of the album. He has also done visual art for many of Flume's other projects, including his most recent album, Palaces. Just 4 days after Flume premiered his new live show at Coachella, he released 2 more singles from the album, Say It featuring Tove Lo, as well as Wallfuck. These were the final 2 releases before the complete album was dropped roughly 1 month later on May 27th, 2016. He headlined some more festivals before kicking off his official tour for the album, closing out the year with a total of 111 performances. On November 25th of that year, he released the Skin Companion EP1, a 4-track EP with many sonic similarities to the album. Less than a month later, he released the track called My Boo for Triple J's Like a Virgin. It was an interpolation of the original track by Ghost Town DJs. At the end of the year, Flume was nominated for 2 Grammys. Never Be Like You was nominated for Best Dance Recording, and his album was nominated for Best Dance/Electronic Album. On February 12, 2017, Flume got his first Grammy when his album Skin won Best Dance/Electronic Album.
And the Grammy goes to Flume for Skin.
5 days after the win, he released his Skin Companion 2 EP, which gave us 4 more tracks. In May of that year, he released the single Hyper Real, which was a continuation of the Skin Companion series, and it was the last release we would hear from him for the next 2 years. He continued on with his touring, playing a total of 58 shows for the year. 2018 was a quiet year for Flume. We didn't get any new music from him, and he only played 4 shows that year. On March 20th of 2019, Flume released his mixtape called Hi, This Is Flume, a 42-minute mixtape featuring all new music, complete with a visual experience directed by Jonathan Zawada. The following week, Flume released another single, Friends featuring Rio Cragen. That summer, he released the single Let You Know with London Grammar, as well as a 3-track EP with Rio Cragen, which included the tracks Quits, Levitate, and an edit of their previously released Friends. In August of 2019, Flume went viral, but this time it wasn't for his music. A video surfaced on Reddit of Flume eating a girl's ass while on stage at the Playa at Burning Man. The girl was presumably Paige Elkington, who he was dating at the time. She even posted the video to her Instagram story. It started off with a picture of someone in the crowd holding a totem that says, "Does Flume even eat ass?" followed by the actual video of the act. I'm not going to include it in the video because I'm trying to grow this channel and I'd rather keep it YouTube friendly-ish, but if you're feeling nasty, it's just a quick Google search away. He eventually broke his silence on the topic by posting a picture of himself eating a peach with the caption, "It was a joke, sorry mom." The post even got a comment from Paris Hilton showing us that all publicity is good publicity. Not long after his fun at Burning Man, he released his final single of the year, Rushing Back with Vera Blue. This year he also put out a compilation of sounds he had made called #Flume Sounds, and he wanted producers to take the sounds and make something with them, then upload them with the same hashtag to see what would come of it. As far as live music goes, he played a total of 40 shows in 2019. In March of 2020, he released his only single for the year, The Difference, featuring Toro y Moi. He also released one remix that year, a rework of the wildly famous Eiffel 65 song, Blue. He was scheduled to headline Buku Fest in New Orleans, as well as a 3-night Red Rocks run that summer, but they were canceled due to the COVID-19 lockdowns. He ended up putting out the live stream of his 2019 Red Rocks show as a consolation for fans, something they could enjoy from home. Flume considers 2020 to be one of the best years of his life because he could actually live like a normal person for once. He has struggled with social anxiety since his teenage years, and he considers himself to be an introverted person, so being thrown into the limelight at such a young age was a difficult experience for him. He would drink every night before shows to quell the anxiety, ultimately leaving him feeling awful. Unfortunately, this is all too common for many introverted creatives. They really just enjoy making the music, but they get thrown into touring as a way to make money, and they can end up finding unhealthy methods to cope with their social struggles. On top of that, he felt that he wasn't able to make many real friendships due to his rigorous travel schedule and not being in one single place for too long. He often questioned people's intentions, always wondering their reasoning for being in his life, whether it was coming from a place of authenticity or just someone looking for personal gain. He started going to a psychiatrist who recommended he try antidepressants, and they were able to help him tremendously. However, he has since gotten off of them and he feels he's in a much better place, and he's been able to live more like a normal person in recent years due to his lifestyle changes as well as the maturity that has come with age. The COVID pandemic was able to help him with this as he purchased some acreage in the Byron Bay area and was able to relax and enjoy life as a normal person since he had no obligations or deadlines to meet. He spent a lot of his time at the beach with his dog, as well as playing Magic the Gathering with his friends. His newly purchased home was the inspiration for the name of his latest album, Palaces, as he felt that he had found his own palace in his new property. It was a place that fostered creativity, a sanctuary of sorts. The property is entirely off the grid, complete with solar panels and a water tank, and he also grows his own vegetables now. He didn't play any shows in 2021 either, so he was able to spend a lot of time working on his next album, as well as just enjoying life and taking it easy for once. Though he did put out one remix that year, a remix of Danielle Harley and DJ Danny's song, On a Mountain. He was nominated for another Grammy in 2020, with his Hi This Is Flume mixtape being in the running for Best Dance/Electronic Album. He got another nomination for Best Dance Recording in 2021 for the single The Difference, but he didn't win either of them. By 2022, Flume had some new music for us, and he kicked off the year with his release of the single Say Nothing, accompanied by a music video directed by Michael Healy. It was followed up with a trickle of 4 more singles from his upcoming album: Sirens with Caroline Polachek, Escape with Quiet Bison and Kuchka, Palaces featuring Damon Albarn, who was the primary musical force behind the Gorillaz, and lastly, the song Hollow featuring Emma Louise. On May 20th, Flume released the full album that he had been crafting over the previous few years, a 13-track experience named Palaces. This year, he got back on the road, touring his new album and playing a total of 64 shows. At the end of the year, he released Slugger 1.4, a demo that he had made in 2014 in Paris. He loved the track, but he said it never quite made it onto an album. He figured that since it had been 10 years since the release of his debut album, now would be a good time to release it. On February 8th of 2023, we got a surprise album release from Flume called Things Don't Always Go the Way You Plan, which is a compilation of previously unreleased tracks spanning from 2012 through 2021. In Flume's own words, "It's been 10 years since my first record came out, and since then I've wrote a lot of music, and not all of it has seen the light of day." The album cover features a hectic desktop crammed crammed with WAV files, folders, and JPEGs. Flume said that he was inspired to release the body of work after seeing how much fans loved Slugger 1.4. He said, "After seeing the reaction to Slugger 1.4 and how much love it got, I figured it would be fun to release more of these forgotten ideas from my old laptops. The whole process has been quite cathartic." This is the most recent release from him, and he has a handful of upcoming tour dates, including a show at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles in just a few weeks, as well as 2 nights at Red Rocks in September. Harley Streten has given the world so much to be grateful for, from his time producing house music under the Heads alias, to his What So Not trap days, and ultimately his biggest project of all with Flume. It's pretty wild to think that all of this sprouted from a trip to the supermarket for some Nutri-Grain cereal. Shout out to Kellogg's and Andrew G's Music Maker for aiding in the creation of a global superstar. I'm glad things have worked out so well for him, because I can only imagine how difficult it is to be so highly praised from such a young age, especially as an introvert. The past 12 years have been an incredibly wild ride for himself as well as his fans, and he has done an excellent job of evolving his sound to stay fresh, always giving you what you need. Here's to Flume on a brilliantly successful career, and here's to many more decades of success and wonderful quirky alien music from the highly renowned Aussie.